The dumbest moments that have ever happened in NASCAR. Some of you guys have been asking for NASCAR content. I'm not sure if this is the kind of content you expected, but this is the kind of content I'm going to have a cheap laugh to. Have a cheap laugh along with me. Let's watch it. Let's dive in.
There are plenty of dumb moments in NASCAR.
Okay.
Some people write the
Enough
whole
to make a
entire
12-minute
sport off
video.
just thinking it's dumb. You may have announcers saying stuff that's completely out of pocket.
Aggressive goes around.
Or NASCAR could fail to throw a caution, causing the entire field to wipe out. And this guy gets away with driving backwards during races over and over again, and there is nothing NASCAR does about it. But upon the dumb
Let him
moments
do his
in
thing.
this
Let him
video,
cook.
you can't get much worse than doing something so bad that you lose an entire race in one simple move. This guy with a bowl cut tried picking a fight and lost. These people risked their lives by climbing on top of a fence
Idiots,
during
man.
a race. But what's a video about dumb moments in NASCAR without talking about the mistakes NASCAR makes themselves?
Okay.
The officiating crew is responsible for throwing a caution if the track gets too wet to race on, which actually happened at a race in New Hampshire in 2021. A downpour started on one end of the racetrack, and the only ones that were actually aware of it were the leaders when they headed into the corner and began to slide uncontrollably. Kyle Busch wrecked from the lead, and Truex and Hamlin would be the ones to follow him. This
Honestly, I kind of respect this though in a way. I'm not going to lie. I'm an F1 fan, and they throw cautions far too easily. They don't even start races these days if it's raining a bit. I get the whole health and safety thing, but come on. Let's have a bit of a wet race sometimes, you know what I mean? Let the people race.
ended Busch's entire day, but he didn't head home without letting everyone know how he felt.
We've been talking about it for 2 laps and it was raining. There's no sense in saying what I want to say. It doesn't do you any good.
NASCAR surely would never make the same mistake again. Wrong. The very next year, they again failed to recognize that one side of the track got wet, but this time the consequences were much, much bigger. Daytona is a track that's notorious for huge pileups. So
Maybe
I bet you
I'm
can
wrong
guess what
then.
happened
I'm
when
wrong.
the leaders started to randomly slide in the rain. This caused thousands,
That's
if
bad.
not millions of dollars in damages, which all could have been avoided if the NASCAR officiating crew reacted a little sooner. And
Okay,
NASCAR
that's
actually
bad.
made this same
But honestly, if you have been watching F1, they do throw cautions a bit too easily, don't they, sometimes? Especially, not so much during the race, but the start of races, man. When it's raining, they do, like... They just delay the race and delay the race and delay the race, and it's annoying.
mistake
Sorry,
back in 2001.
NASCAR,
At Charlotte
not F1.
Motor Speedway, the race started on a wet track, and the drivers couldn't even make it to turn one of the first lap
Maybe
without
this is
water
why.
messing with the traction so much. A number of cars lost control, and their cars became completely undrivable. The only thing NASCAR could think to do was to allow the affected drivers to pull out their secondary cars and give them one more chance. The one who started dead last was Jeff Gordon, and ultimately won the race. The good news? NASCAR has this thing called a rain tire. While the main ones are slicks, the rain tires look similar to what you'd find on a road in
Same
real
as
life,
F1.
and surely using these would fix all of our problems. NASCAR tried using these in an actual race, but it turns out racing in the rain is pretty impossible no matter what. But if you want a good laugh, catch one of these races live, and you'll feel like you're watching a ton of rookies aimlessly driving through a course. Some drivers will do the craziest things to get an advantage, including doing their best Dale Earnhardt impressions.
No way,
But
that
maybe
can't be
Carl
real.
Edwards was onto something, because if you have no visibility because there's too much water, something like this could easily happen to you. It seems like NASCAR still likes racing in the rain. Some of it was coming down at the Charlotte Xfinity race this year, and NASCAR insisted on just racing in it. Nobody wrecked in this clip, but Dale Jr. just quote tweeted it with a facepalm emoji. NASCAR
But is there not like a certain level of just don't be an idiot? When it's raining, you clearly have to drive slower. You got to be way more careful. Or are the cars completely undrivable? That's what I want to know. Like, is there still a way to approach it and just play it safe? You
It's
know
a
what I mean?
place where you can find some of the goofiest fights ever fought. Have you ever wanted to see a fight between Rowley Jefferson and a watermelon farmer from Florida? Well,
No, my man should be fighting his barber.
it
That's who he
turns
should be
out you can do
fighting.
just that. But seriously, how are you going to confront
can't
someone
say much,
when
so
you
look
have
at
a
this.
bowl cut? Another dumb NASCAR fight happened in this exhibition race where Clint Boyer ran up to Ryan Newman, who was still sitting inside of his car, and started throwing haymakers like he was on the verge of winning a UFC match. By
Got a
now.
helmet on, though?
Clint kept his helmet on, and when Newman jumped out of his car to prove him wrong, he felt very, very dumb about what he did. Another unbelievably silly NASCAR fight happened at Las Vegas in 2022. Kyle Busch accidentally ran Bubba Wallace into the wall,
Then
and
we've seen
without
this
any
one.
hesitation at all, Bubba came back to wreck him immediately. And it created an unfortunate time for Christopher Bell because he was innocently collected in all of this while trying to win the championship. And what puts this above all else is the way Bubba jumped out of his car and wanted to fight Larson after ending both of their races. Even Christopher Bell had more of a reason to be mad at this point, and Bubba received a one-race suspension for the whole sequence of events. And of course, course, we can't forget to mention the beef between Denny Hamlin and Chase Elliott. In this year's Coke 600, Chase Elliott got angry with Hamlin after repeated contact and took matters into his own hands, spinning Hamlin in the right rear, which made him hit the wall head on. Landon Castle once said that the #1 rule of stock car racing is to learn how to wreck somebody without wrecking yourself. And Chase Elliott didn't listen. Not only did he wreck Denny Hamlin on purpose, but Hamlin then called it a tantrum in his interview, exposed him on Twitter, and he proceeded to get banned from the next NASCAR race, all within a 24-hour stretch.
That's a mad attitude to be going into a race with. Is that actually how some of these drivers think? That's wild.
Yeah, it's a tantrum, and he shouldn't be racing next week. Right rear hooks are absolutely unacceptable.
It was surprising to see this out of Chase Elliott since Bubba Wallace was suspended for an identical crash that we just went over, and for a guy who already missed a few races this year with a broken leg, you would think he'd prioritize health and safety. NASCAR fans love to pay those premium stadium prices for certain beverages when attending a racetrack, and this could be the very reason why fans have made the decision to randomly climb up the catch fences during races. The most iconic case of fans climbing the fence was in 2014 during Richmond Raceway's chase race, and this is what Alan Bestwick had to say about it.
Let's just say it's somebody doing something stupid that's brought out the caution in the race.
A caution had to be called for the safety of the fan, and fun fact, the reason for the caution is forever listed as security in the racing reference database. Although it might not be very hard to figure out, years later in an interview he admitted to drinking before climbing this very fence. Would this fan be the very last to do so?
Probably not.
Of course not. This fan was seen climbing it at Charlotte Motor Speedway for the Coca-Cola 600. I get it. With it being the longest race of the year, he probably was just trying to get a better view. But he also appears to be taking a video of his point of view from his phone. So someone please go hunting and find out if this footage exists.
Someone just clearly didn't get enough attention as a child. That's what's happening right here. My man is just...
And based on the way the cars still appear to be racing,
It's
it doesn't
just-
seem like a caution ever came out for this. A fan
I don't
also
wanna
decided
swear,
to climb
but
the fence
fill in the
during
gap, he's just
2020
a-
Bristol All-Star race. Or I guess it counts as after the race, because when Chase Elliott won, this fan got a little too excited. My favorite part is when a content creator that goes by the name Moonhead was in attendance and decided to capture this viral interview with said fan.
So what inspired you to climb the fence?
Chase Elliott won.
You're just that overcome with
Yes.
emotion you had to climb something?
Yes, I love Chase Elliott.
Did you know it's been 6 years since Jimmy Johnson last won in NASCAR? It
I
also
didn't.
happens to be the very same day that this race fan climbed the Dover catch fence in turn 4. This is by far the craziest one because the race was still under green and one of his legs was dangling over the edge. No caution was called, and I feel like I have to say this, so don't worry YouTube, he made it down safely and here is the proof. Kyle Busch has already won so many NASCAR races and his share of championships that I think at this point he can take certain moments not 100% seriously while also being a good driver.
How did you drive that after hitting
My man's just digging for gold there live on
the
TV.
grass like that and bending that splitter? KFB.
Think about the time where he ran over these cones, was told not to do that, and the next time just decided to leave his car rogue on pit lane. Nothing is too serious for KFB, and he shows it in the funniest ways possible. In this year's Coke 600, he self-spun on the back straightaway, was facing the wrong direction at the end of his spin, and proceeded to drive in reverse for a quarter of a lap. And the very next day, he jumped on Twitter and made a post about it, which would receive thousands and thousands of likes. This is nothing new for Kyle Busch, though. It's really been something he's always done. It happened
My man got 7,000 likes on a tweet. It's not, I mean, it's more likes than I'd get on a tweet, but come on. Surely NASCAR drivers are pulling more of a following than that.
at Road America in 2021, at Kansas in 2013, and on the final lap of the 2014 Daytona 500. I kind of wonder if it's a nod to his M&M's commercial from way back in the day, where the M&M's are shown doing the exact same thing. And if Kyle Busch was a character in Cars, he would probably be Mater. There was one really dumb instance in NASCAR where a real-life driver lost one of his real-life sponsors because he rage quit out of a video game. This happened in the NASCAR
iRacing.
Invitational Series, which was an iRacing league with real-life drivers
Yo, I
that
play
replaced
iRacing. Well,
NASCAR
used
during
to.
2020 when the thing happened. Active Cup drivers and even retired ones got to race in it, and during their race at Bristol, Bubba Wallace had a run-in with Clint Boyer. Bubba was live streaming his point of view, probably to Twitch, where he got upset at Clint Boyer for wrecking him and not taking the race seriously. Once Bubba got crashed, he stopped in the racing groove, left the race, and ended his stream. Well, apparently his sponsor Blue Emu paid to be on his video game race car, and that meant that they wouldn't get their money's worth in terms of exposure. Bubba Wallace posted about the incident on Twitter not long after, but Blue Emu saw it as anything but a joke. They made the decision to stop sponsoring Wallace because he's a quitter. Blue Emu made sure to take their stance on the incident and even responded with this gif. And yes, these tweets are real.
I mean, I reckon they're not actually that bothered. They've just seen a good chance to market themselves there, and they've just dove on it. Fair play to them.
Sometimes NASCAR announcers will make calls in huge moments that could send chills through your body.
Make room, Richard Petty and Dale Earnhardt. There's another 7-time champ.
And other times they'll put you right to sleep.
Larson tried to go to the middle.
Oh.
One time, a commentator named Rick Allen got so excited near the end of a race at Watkins Glen that he called a driver the word aggressive, and when that driver spun, he said this.
Aggressive goes around.
This became one of the biggest announcer memes in NASCAR history, and was also one of the first videos I ever uploaded to this channel. Jimmie Johnson was one lap away from winning his 5th championship, and on the final lap, the announcer said this.
That hammering you hear is the sound of the nail of the final coffin on the chase contender's hopes.
Now, I understand the phrase he was going for, but the lights were definitely too bright because the pressure must have made him fumble it. Speaking of times where announcers
just
butchered
spun
the
out.
finish, Justin Allgaier in the red car was about to win this race because Carl Edwards ran out of gas, but he would also run out of gas unexpectedly. Both drivers were coasting to the finish, but then a white car suddenly appeared out of nowhere, and the announcer automatically assumed it was 3rd place Trevor Bayne and ended up looking extremely silly when he realized that it was just a car already 1 lap down, so he ended up overhyping the call completely.
Third place is Trevor Bayne. Here they come. It's going to be a drag race to the finish. Could Trevor Bayne do it? Did he get his first win?
No,
And
man.
in this last moment, an announcer said something that was quite out of pocket. Ambrose was leading this race at Sonoma, California, but he still had to save some fuel. So under caution, he shut off his car while going up a hill, but he couldn't get it refired right away. This would mean that he surrendered the lead to Jimmie Johnson with only 7 laps to go, and he basically gave the win away. Remember, we're in California, so this announcer saw it as the perfect time to make this joke.
If you want to find Marcos Ambrose, go to the Golden Gate Bridge, because that's where he's standing right now.
That is wrong, man.
There's also times where NASCAR drivers completely mess up and lose focus. Most NASCAR fans will know about the one time where Mark Martin was about to win the race, but he pulled into the pits 1 lap too early and gave his
Oh,
win away.
no,
And as
man.
recently as 2020, Tyler Reddick did something similar where he was running in 4th place, but he happened to stop racing on the last lap, and he didn't realize his mistake until his team started yelling at him over the radio.
Randall boys, everyone. Great car, great stuff.
Luckily for him, he didn't lose a single
that's
spot.
gonna be a
It's so
rough
rare for this
debrief.
to happen that I just had to mention it here. What is a NASCAR video without mentioning Darrell Waltrip's famous phrase, "Buggity, buggity, buggity"? He'd say it right before the initial start to every race, which overall made it very iconic and recognizable. But especially towards the end of his announcing career, he'd start to lose his marbles and add random phrases to his already random
my
phrase.
man seems
One time
wild.
he asked the other announcers in the booth to do it along with him, which was never done before, and since it wasn't rehearsed, it turned out a little awkward.
Let's go racing, boys!
And one time, for some unknown reason, he decided to call all of the drivers a bunch of hot dogs.
Buggity, buggity, buggity. Let's go racing, you bunch of hot dogs.
And at this Talladega race, he chose to say it 6 times instead of the usual 3.
Buggity, 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 buggity. Let's go racing, boys.
The usual tagline is "Let's go racing, boys," but when Danica joined the Cup Series in 2013, he had to think of a brand new way to get races kicked off.
Buggity, buggity, buggity. Let's go racing, boys. And yes, Danica.
Most people who don't watch NASCAR are
Fair
likely
play.
to think the
Killed
original
it.
phrase is goofy in itself, but the different iterations were sure to make you laugh if you weren't expecting them. Some race fans weren't fans of DW as an announcer, but seeing the way races are announced now, the nostalgia and wishes for him to return are already coming. Make sure to subscribe.
I mean, the crashes are the crazy thing in NASCAR. Just these little clips it's thrown in here just always blow my mind that people
Go racing, boys.
do this
But when Danica
on a
joined
weekly
the Cup
basis.
Series,
Sorry, I went back way too
fans
far.
of DW as an
Just where the
announcer,
cars are
seeing the
kissing
way
each
races
other
are
here,
announced-
look, just going along the way in the race, just kissing bumper to bumper. Absolute mad. Guys, if you want more NASCAR content or IndyCar content, I need some recommendations down below because people do comment saying do some NASCAR stuff. But I look for videos and it doesn't seem like there's the same kind of content creation that there is for like MLB and NFL and ice hockey, which I still haven't done much ice hockey. So if you have some videos you want me to check out, let me know down in the comments. Do subscribe to the channel and I'll see you for the next one. Take it easy. Peace.